All right, let's just dive right in. You've probably seen the letters VPN everywhere, right? On ads and articles, maybe your IT department at work is always talking about them. But what in the world is a virtual private network? And how does it create this private tunnel just for you on the massive public highway we call the internet? Let's break it all down.
But first, let's start with a really basic question. When you hop on the Wi-Fi at a coffee shop or in an airport, or even just sitting at home, have you ever stopped to think about who might be able to, peek at what you're doing? Is that connection really as private as you think it is?
Well, the reality is the public internet is exactly that. It's public. Think of it like a giant, chaotic superhighway. Your data is speeding along, for sure, but the road itself is fundamentally untrusted. It just wasn't built with privacy as the #1 priority, and that creates a huge problem when you need to send sensitive information.
So, that brings up the big question, right? How do you protect your stuff as it travels across this wide-open, untrusted space? Well, that's where the solution comes in. You build your very own private, secure tunnel right through the middle of all that chaos. And that is the core job of a VPN, a virtual private network. It's this really clever technology that's designed specifically to move information securely between places you trust, even when it has to cross all those untrusted networks to get there. It basically creates your own private express lane on that public highway.
Honestly, this is the absolute best way to picture it. Instead of sending your data out in the open for anyone to see, a VPN builds this exclusive, armored tunnel just for your traffic. Everything inside that tunnel is completely shielded from view until it gets exactly where it needs to go.
Now, you might be thinking this is all about cybersecurity and hackers, and look, you're not wrong. That's a huge piece of the puzzle. But the reasons people started using VPNs, especially in the business world, are actually a little more surprising than that. So you've really got two massive benefits here. The first one is exactly what you'd expect, security. I mean, protecting your data is absolutely critical. But it's the second one, cost. That was the real kicker that drove companies to adopt VPNs in the early days. See, before VPNs, if a company in New York needed a secure, dedicated line to its office out in San Francisco, they had to lease this incredibly expensive private phone line called a T1 line. It was like building your own private, physical highway across the entire country. We're talking crazy expensive.
And this is where the light bulb really went off for businesses. By using the public internet that they were already paying for to create a virtual private network, one company, get this, saved over $237,000 in just 3 years. Instead of shelling out 10 grand a month for a private line, they could use what they already had. This was an absolute game changer.
Okay, so a VPN saves a ton of money, and it keeps you secure by building this tunnel. But how in the world is this digital tunnel actually built? What's the magic happening behind the scenes?
The secret sauce, the core process, is a technique called tunneling. And really, at its heart, it's about putting a box inside of another box. Your private data, the thing you actually want to protect, gets put inside a protective outer package that's designed to travel across the public internet. This whole process is called encapsulation.
And this slide right here shows you exactly what I mean. See that smaller box labeled private? That's your secret message. The VPN wraps it up inside that larger internet box, which basically acts like plain brown packaging for its journey. It's now totally hidden, encapsulated, and ready to ship out.
So the whole journey follows 3 pretty simple steps. First, your data gets encapsulated, or wrapped up. Second, it gets transmitted through that tunnel across the internet. And finally, only once it arrives safely at the right destination, it gets unencapsulated or unwrapped. No one sees the contents in between, period.
But here's the thing. Just like in real-world construction, you don't use the same tools for every single job. Building a massive tunnel to connect an entire corporate office is a totally different project than building a quick, temporary tunnel just so you can securely check your bank account. These different jobs use different sets of rules, and we call those protocols. And this chart breaks down 2 of the big ones. You've got these heavy-duty protocols like IPSec, which are used to connect entire office networks together on a more permanent basis, and then you have SSL, which, believe it or not, you use all the time without even realizing it. You see that little padlock icon in your browser when you go to your banking website? Yep, that's an SSL VPN creating a quick, secure tunnel just for that one task. Different tools for different jobs.
So let's pull all of this together. What's the one big idea you should walk away with from all this? When it comes down to it, what does a VPN actually give you?
At the end of the day, a VPN is basically a digital disguise. It's like a cloak of invisibility for your data. By wrapping up your traffic and sending it through an encrypted, private tunnel, it makes sure your information gets from point A to point B without anyone on that public highway being able to see what it is or even where it's really going.
And that kind of leaves us with one last thought to chew on. In our hyper-connected world, where we're always online, sending data from our phones, our laptops, our watches, when would having your own private, secure tunnel ever be a bad idea? Something to think about.